All right, are we ready to do some planning? So what I'm going to show you is just a few guiding principles on how I think about planning my green stocks, and then I'm going to plan one out for you so you see how I do it, and hopefully that'll give you an idea on how to plan your green stocks as well. Now know that this is my way of doing it. I'm following some of the general principles obviously that Greenstock recommends, but I have got my setup a little bit differently. Let me show you. You'll see that my green stocks are set up so that they've got larger 10-inch original tiers at the bottom and smaller ones on the top, and I've got that for all my green stocks. I actually purchased 4 green stocks altogether, and I divvied them up this way, and now I've got 5. So on an average I've got maybe 2 to 3 large tiers at the bottom and 1 to 2 smaller tiers at the top. So that really impacts how I plan my green stocks as well. I know you guys love looking at green stocks. I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to show you how they are doing. And when I show people this green stock tower with the peas on the top, everyone wants to know, hey, where'd you get that trellis from? Well, this is actually not a Greenstock product. I wish Greenstock will come up with a trellis. I'm sure they're working on it. They've got the plant support like they've got in that green stock over there, but that's not the same as a trellis. Trellises are really helpful to grow things vertically, and this is what's called a Texas tomato cage, and I got it from next door. You can actually buy these online, and you can actually DIY this stuff as well using something like cattle panels, just twist it around and stick it in. Got a video on how I direct sowed this green stock, and look at this, you guys. Can you believe how large this broccoli plant is? My green stocks, I just love them. They're looking so pretty. Okay, let's go ahead and plan our green stock. But before we do that, if you're getting value from this video, folks, I sure would appreciate a big thumbs up. It really helps the video spread. Okay, let's do some planning. So when I think about how to organize my green stocks, when I plan for it, there are some guiding principles that I use. Now, a couple of them are in the book already. There's the tip from Jack, the inventor, which basically says that if you're planting in the green stock, the larger plants need to go at the bottom, which is a common sense thing. If you've got plants that are going to be shading out the plants below it, you're better off putting them on the lower tiers. And then another note over here is that anything planted in the leaf can also be planted in the original. And I think that's fair, absolutely. But my counter to that is, why do you want to waste an original tier which holds a lot more soil with plants that you could grow in a leaf? So sidebar, when people ask me, should I be getting a leaf tier green stock or should I get an original green stock? I usually advise them to start with the leaf tier green stock, and then the next green stock can be the original. And the reason why I do that is because I did it that way and it worked out really, really well. So I started with the 7 tier because I wanted to grow strawberries. Turned out I grew a lot of things other than strawberries in it, and I found that I could grow a lot of things in the 7 tier green stock. Number one, there are a lot more pockets, so you can grow a lot more plants, but also because you have such good soil in the green stock, and because you fertilize so often and you water it well and you just take care of it better, you can grow a lot of plants in very little soil. However, if you're planning on mostly growing summer veggies like tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and cucumbers, then you're better off getting the original, which has 10 inches and hence a lot more soil, and those larger plants obviously will grow better in that. But if you're planning to get several green stocks over time, do consider starting with the leaf tier and then graduating to the original. And then you can also do what I did, which is mix and match and bring it to just the perfect height for your liking. Okay, let's talk about the original guiding principles. Obviously, if you are growing large plants, bottom tier, and then if you're growing summer veggies for the most part, yeah, you want to be using the original. And then I also would highly recommend that you only grow dwarf varieties. So tomatoes, as an example, grow dwarf variety or micro tomatoes. Many summer veggies can be bought in dwarf varieties or patio varieties. I know a lot of places that sell dwarf varieties. Some of my favorites are Renee's Garden, M.I. Gardner, Baker Creek. They all sell micro and dwarf tomatoes, as well as eggplants, as well as okra, as well as cucumbers, bush cucumbers. All of those things will do really well in the green stock. Don't get the large indeterminate tomatoes. I mean, they just grow really big, unwieldy. You can't manage them, you can't trellis them well, and they will just look ugly. Some more principles for your original green stock. If you're growing climbing veggies, I recommend no more than one type. So if you're growing cucumbers, for example, let that be the only type of climbing veggie that you're planting in one green stock. Don't plant cucumbers and cantaloupe and beans. It just gets confusing and it looks messy. So stick to one and have different climbing plants in different green stocks. Yeah, you do need more than one green stock. Okay, some guiding principles for the leaf. You want to plant shallow rooted plants. So think about things like lettuce and spinach and bok choy, herbs, shallow rooted flowers. All of those work really well in the leaf tier. If you're planning on planting mint, I suggest that you dedicate an entire tier to mint because it will crowd out everything else and it will hog every space that it can get. Oh, one more important thing. If you're thinking about growing herbs in your leaf tier green stock, then consider the watering needs of the herbs. So if you're growing things, for example, like lavender or sage or rosemary, they don't require a lot of water. And if you're planting them next to basil and parsley or veggies like bok choy that require a lot of water, it's going to be imbalanced, and the herbs that require drier soil are not going to do well. So I actually suggest that you keep those herbs out of the green stock, even though they are recommended and they'll probably do okay. They won't thrive as much as plants that you will be paying attention to and giving a lot of water and nutrients, because those plants, the drier plants, just don't require a lot of attention, and the green stock gets a lot of attention. And then I do recommend that you plant your climbers like peas on the topmost tier. You can do leaf or original, but if you can do a makeshift kind of a trellis until Greenstock has one that they make specifically for Greenstock, which will probably be way better than anything that you can DIY, you're better off actually growing climbers in the topmost. And I've actually got a video where I show you several options on how to do DIY trellising, and I'll put a link to that as well. Okay, now that we've got some of the general guiding principles laid out for both the original as well as the leaf, let's go ahead and design one of my green stocks for the summer so you can get some ideas on how to do it for your own. Okay, so let's talk about how I design my green stocks. What I will be using is a template that they provided a long time ago with 7 of those tiers on a single page, and that actually is what I'm going to be using, plus this book. The book that comes with pretty much any Greenstock setup box that you buy, and it's got all of the plants that can be grown in the original and all of the plants that can be grown in the leaf tier. So let me show you how I do it online. So I downloaded the PDF with the design sheet in it, and I snapshotted it. I hope that's appropriate. And I put it on Canva, which is a free software that anyone can download and use. And then I used Canva to sort of choose the shapes of the vegetables that I wanted to, and then I put them in the various pockets. Okay, so number 1 here is my bottommost tier. In that I've put my tomatoes, which are among my biggest plants, and I have interspersed them with basil because I want no more than 3 dwarf tomatoes in this tier. And basil and tomato, they're just best friends, they're best companions and great in pasta sauce together. The next level up, I'm going to be growing coleus, and I'll make sure that the coleus is not directly above the tomato because they're both sort of big leafed plants, and you want to put the big leafed plants in the lower tiers as we discussed earlier. But I'm also putting okra in this tier, and okra has skinny leaves and it's a tallish plant, so it shouldn't really have any problem pushing through any of the tomato leaves that are coming up from the bottom tier and going straight up. And then the next tier above that, I'm going to put my peppers. And I'm going to be growing some compact pepper varieties, some of those nice hot peppers like Thai and Buena Mulata, which is a beautiful purple pepper. And I won't be planting things like jalapeno, capsicum. Those plants tend to be much larger unless you can get some dwarf varieties. And then, of course, I've got my single climber of choice, like I talked about earlier. I'm going to be growing cucumbers in this tier, and I'm going to be putting little stakes out of these cucumber tiers to hold on to them as they start to grow. You can also use a plant support around it, but then eventually the cucumber plant is going to need to grow onto something taller. Or you can just have it hang over the plant support. I guess that would work fine as well. I'm going to trellis it up. And then it starts to get to the smaller plants. Now, number 4 and number 5 over here are going to be leaf tiers. The first 3 that I just showed you are going to be original tiers, and that's kind of how I've organized mine. The bottom ones are original, the upper ones are leaf. And I'm going to be growing flowers, of course, marigolds. Marigolds are almost in all my green stalks. And then I'm growing kale. Kale grows throughout the summer really well in my hot California climate, so it's always got a place in my garden and in my green stalk. And then finally, the uppermost tier, I'm going to be planting nasturtiums. Now, these are going to cascade down the edge of the green stalk, and of course, they're going to shade a bunch of things, but I don't care. They look beautiful. And they are going to be interspersed with thyme, and thyme tends to push out these tall, spiky, pretty flowers that look so majestic on top of the green stalk. So this is one way of organizing your green stalk, folks, and I frankly am doing it the first time this way, and I am actually really pleased at how easy it was. I've been sort of a little more chaotic in the past, but I find that doing green stalks in an organized way results in not just a more productive green stalk, but also a much prettier green stalk. And with the green stalk, it's a lot about the beauty for me. It brings me so much joy. And of course, everything grows better in the green stalk, as I always say, so I got to keep that in mind as I plan as well. Okay, so remember those links I promised to the video where I show you how to DIY trellis your green stalk as well as how to direct sow your green stalk? Well, the links are right here and here. And do check out a playlist that I have in my channel on all things green stalk. I think you'll find some pretty interesting videos in there. Happy gardening!